Okay, I'm back. I ended up cutting the head off, and unfortunately, you know, the camera it didn't overheat. I don't know what happened, but it cut off. So I don't know how much you guys missed, and I'll end up having to kind of go through and figure that out at some point. But I'm cutting. I cut the head off, and now I'm going through and kind of working on getting proportions of things roughly where I think they need to be. I don't normally often do this way, but I'm trying to kind of do my heads better than I usually do them. I haven't decided yet still what kind of a head I'm going for, whether monstrous or humanoid like. Um, really, what I'm trying to figure out right now is just the silhouette of the face. And I'm going to rough out a skeleton right now that I can alter more later. I think that based off of how I'm doing this, though, it's probably going to be more monstrous, but it'd be interesting if I could turn this around and make it less monstrous. I'm looking at like the sides of the face and kind of trying to understand where different things go. Because one of the things I want to improve on this year is just proportions and speed at which I do heads. I don't do faces really fast anymore because I've stopped doing normal people for whatever reason. And I've noticed that. I've noticed that they take me more time than I feel like they should. So I want to try and improve on those so that I'm not taking, 4 years to do somebody's face. It also just improves, how much people might want your stuff. If I can make good faces, that makes me more valuable to people. Because as it stands, I'm mostly good at monsters, which monsters are cool, but there's more to the world than monsters. So what I'm doing now is I'm kind of gonna put a normal like head and nose on this thing, and then I'm gonna just tweak it as I go. So what I think I'm gonna do first is just kind of get some like structure to this. At least some. His face is still definitely off because the jaw is like not where it should be for like a human being. It's like in a really weird place. The jaw should insert here, so it should swivel from here, and I don't think it would actually be able to come out that far. But I will kind of decide more on that in a little bit. Faces are weird. Mostly just because of the structure. It's hard to get the human structure right if you don't start it off where it needs to start. I find that with my fantastical stuff, it's a lot easier to get back on track with something. That's probably also just because the reference is your own eye. You get to decide what you're making and what it's supposed to look like. But in this instance, there are guidelines, there are references. This looks awful. But I also I really don't make people anymore, which is more of a reason too. I mean, I kind of got stuck on like when I was making the Naga, I got stuck on the face because I was like, how do I do this? I'm contemplating investing in this book on human faces. The guys that make the anatomy book I showed you last video, Oldest Zarins, they've got another book that is on just facial expressions and like the human face, and it looks really good, and it would allow me to make like portraits better, I think. Because right now I'm too slow at them. And then this just also doesn't really look like a person. It doesn't not look like a person, but it's just, oh shoot, I keep going out of frame. I need to put something here so that I know that this is where I need to work from. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's by no means is it good. That's like the upsetting thing. I feel like for all that I can do elsewhere, it's really limiting that I don't have good facial understanding. The face is full of emotion. The face tells stories and tales. And for as long as I've been sculpting, I should be able to. I might restart this face. Because I know that if I kind of reset it and then work it with like a better starting point, it would probably look how I want it to look. I'm probably getting thrown off because of the fact that I started it from a weird kind of already pre-doing something head. But I'm going to see if I can kind of turn this into whatever I'm thinking in my head. Like, I want to do a lady, but I also don't. And I'm trying to figure out how I would do that if I wanted to. I feel like I think they have narrower, like, cranial areas. But this feels too flat in general. So I'm going to see what happens if I flesh this out. Probably help if I pulled out some reference material. I was going to try and wait and do that whole looking at it later thing, but yeah. Grab the good book. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely resculpt that head. I'm going to use this head as the like basis for the proportions, but I'm going to redo it and do it better because I'm not happy with that. So what I'm going to do is get kind of like the rough silhouette of what I want. And heads can be tricky, but something like this I think works well. That's kind of in line, and if I'm worried I can take it and stick it on my figure. That works. So now I'm going to shape out the head. one of the issues I have is that I kind of wind that out too quickly. So now that that's done, if I can recall correctly, yeah, it should be about here. That's roughly where the forehead should stop. You have the forehead, then you have nose, and you have the mouth. So now that's a good idea to carve, I believe, from like the nose in, if I can remember, like this. You just kind of take that whole thing out. But it can be tricky to do it the right way. A little messier than I want it to be.